Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your source material, tear it apart, and piece together the most crucial insights, the knowledge shortcut you need.
Yeah.
Today, we are plunging into the numbers. Specifically, the Q3 2025 smartphone sales report, Apple and Samsung strategy.
And this is way more than just a standard market snapshot. The Q3 data is showing us some tectonic shifts in how the two biggest players are approaching their markets.
That's tectonic shifts. I like that.
It's this fascinating tension. You have Apple, which is focusing so intensely on this ultra premium specific user, and then you have Samsung betting everything on just sheer volume.
So our mission today is to dig into those strategies, right? To get the blueprint behind the numbers.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this then, because the very first data point, it's the one that makes you blink and, double check the date on the report.
It really does.
Because everyone just assumes the shiny new flagship, the one that launched just a few weeks before the quarter ended, is going to top the charts. But that is not what happened.
Not at all. And that's maybe the biggest surprise of this whole dive. It tells us that success isn't just about launching the newest gadget. It's about masterful inventory management and really, really smart regional targeting.
Okay, so let's nail down the numbers right away. The global best-selling phone was the iPhone 16, the previous generation.
The previous one.
Yeah.
And it's held that top spot for the third consecutive quarter.
The third quarter. So it just completely shrugged off all the hype for the new 17 series. How does a company maintain that kind of volume for an aging product?
Well, it's critical to understand this wasn't just a passive thing. The report calls it a strategic regional power play. Apple didn't just, let the 16 sell itself. They engineered a demand environment.
Engineered to where? Exactly.
Yeah.
This sounds like it's less about the global market and more about surgical strikes in specific countries.
That's the perfect way to put it, surgical strikes. We need to focus on two markets that the source material really details, India and Japan. In India, they ran these massive festive promotions timed perfectly around Diwali and other high-spending seasons. And it wasn't a simple discount.
Right, it never is.
No. We're talking aggressive carrier subsidies, big trade-in bonuses, local financing deals. All of it just brought the effective price of the iPhone 16 way, way down.
Making it irresistible for millions of people looking to upgrade from an older Android.
A total no-brainer.
Yeah.
And India is the key for volume growth globally right now. So getting millions of first-time premium users hooked on the Apple ecosystem with the 16, that's a huge long-term play.
Okay, so that's India. What about Japan?
So Japan had this sustained market recovery going on in Q3. You had a lot of delayed corporate spending finally happening. Consumer confidence was up. And the iPhone 16 was positioned there with very specific carrier incentives that really play into Japanese consumer habits. They often prefer a slightly older, proven model on a good contract.
So if you look at the strategy here, it's actually brilliant supply chain management. Instead of letting the 16 go into its usual seasonal decline, and risking a competitor like Xiaomi filling that gap, they just cannibalize their own previous generation to hold the spot.
And that is the core insight. By weaponizing the price of the 16 in these volume markets, they're not just making sales. They are protecting their average selling price in their established high-margin territories.
So the 16 is like a global volume defense mechanism.
Exactly. It keeps the premium price of the new 17 series totally intact in the West.
But wait, doesn't that sort of send a message that the new 17 series wasn't a big enough jump? If the old model is selling this well, is the 17 a failure?
That's a great question, but the data on the 17 Pro Max, it suggests the complete opposite. They're serving two entirely different customers.
So the 16 is for volume and market share.
And the 17 Pro Max is for margin. It's for that highest spending, most demanding user. It didn't win the volume race, no, but it absolutely won the intensity race.
Let's talk about intensity. So the iPhone 16 takes the gold for global volume, but the brand new iPhone 17 Pro Max, it's still snuck into the 10th spot globally.
And that's despite only being available for, a few weeks of the quarter?
That's an insane velocity of sales.
It is. And here's where it gets really interesting. The 17 Pro Max was the best-selling single model in the month of September alone.
Wow. Even with limited availability at launch.
Even with those constraints, that kind of velocity points to a massive pent-up demand, a huge backlog of really motivated buyers who clearly were not interested in the cheaper, older model.
And the report connects this to a bigger trend, right? Something about an upgrade cycle.
Yes, a major delayed upgrade cycle. You have to remember that big spending period during the early COVID era. A lot of those people are holding on to phones that are now 3, maybe 4 years old.
Then their batteries are dying, the cameras feel old.
Yeah.
They just need to upgrade.
They need an upgrade. And crucially, they aren't just looking for the base model. They waited this long, so they're going straight to the Pro Max. They want the best specs to justify the wait.
Which makes sense. And when you look at the hardware in the 17 Pro Max, it's very clearly targeted at what the report calls demanding users.
Oh, absolutely. The content creators, the serious gamers, the people editing video on their phone.
So let's detail some of that hardware. What did the report highlight?
Well, you've got the foundational stuff, the new A19 Pro chip, which everyone expected. But crucially, it's paired with a sophisticated vapor chamber cooling system.
And that's not a gimmick. That's for sustained peak performance, right?
The difference between a tool that works and one that melts down. The second you start exporting a long 4K video or running an intensive AR app, that cooling is what matters. It prevents thermal throttling.
Okay, and then there's the camera system.
Yeah, the report calls the upgrades insane. New 48-megapixel sensors on multiple lenses, the ability to shoot in formats like ProRes RAW,
and the zoom.
A truly impressive 8x optical zoom. These are the kinds of features that pull a professional user or a serious hobbyist off the fence and into a premium upgrade.
So Apple had this two-pronged attack, the high-volume regional play with the 16 and the high Marine elite strategy with the 17 Pro Max. A perfect summary. But if Apple is just focused on those two edges of the market, that leaves this huge space in the middle, which of course is where Samsung made its move.
That's the perfect segue, because while Apple was optimizing for those two specific groups, the vast middle of the market, the sweet spot for global volume, was utterly dominated by their rival.
And here comes the Galaxy A series blitz. This is where the numbers just explode. Samsung took 5 of the top 10 spots globally.
5 of them. And every single one was from the affordable mid-range Galaxy A series.
It's the ultimate example of what the report calls mid-range mastery.
It is. And the Galaxy A16 5G was the big star. It was the best-selling Android phone of the entire quarter. Samsung has just perfected the art of giving you, 90% of the features for 50% of the price.
But the strategy now seems to be more complex than just making a decent cheap phone. They're strategically blurring the lines between mid-range and premium.
They are. They're democratizing high-end features, dripping down tech that was exclusive to their flagships just a year or two ago.
And the biggest example of that has to be the AI integration.
That's the revolutionary part of this Q3 data. The A36 and A56 models now have these awesome intelligence AI features,
which were the huge selling point of the S-series flagships just last quarter.
Things like Best Face and Enhanced Nightography are now standard across the mid-range.
Wait, are we talking watered-down lightweight versions? Or are people getting the core functionality?
They're getting the core functionality. Nightography isn't just a simple long exposure anymore. It's a sophisticated computational process that cleans up low-light photos. Best Face uses AI to find the best expression in a burst of photos.
For the mass market buyer, that's a massive, tangible value add.
It's huge. It solves the pain points that used to make people pay $1,000 for a phone. The average person who just wants a good photo of their kid or their dinner is now getting these really sophisticated tools on a mid-range device.
And it's not just the AI.
No, Samsung is also improving other tangibles. Faster charging speeds, which people notice every day, and longer software support guarantees, which reduces that fear of buying a cheaper device.
You're not getting left behind after a year.
Exactly.
And we can't forget the sheer global reach. It wasn't just the A16 5G. Even the lower-end models, like the A16 4G and the A06, are apparently crushing it in emerging markets.
Yeah, Latin America, the Middle East, it just highlights Samsung's comprehensive market coverage. They have a device priced for literally every possible budget everywhere in the world.
So while Apple is playing chess with two very powerful specific pieces,
Samsung is flooding the entire board.
Okay, so let's synthesize all this. We've seen these two giants execute their plans brilliantly in Q3. What are the two non-negotiable drivers shaping the market now?
Well, the first is obvious when you see the A16 5G at the top of the Android charts.
5G.
Right, 5G is now standard. It's not a premium feature anymore. If your phone doesn't have 5G, you're a niche product.
And the second driver, the one that really defines this whole strategic battle, it has to be AI.
Without a doubt. AI is now the main lever being used to differentiate mid-range devices. By putting awesome intelligence into the A series, Samsung is just accelerating that blurring of the lines between mid-range and premium.
So the performance gap still exists for that demanding user.
Oh, for sure. The person who needs the vapor cooling and ProRes RAW, that gap is real. But the feature gap is closing at an alarming rate.
Which means the market is more competitive and exciting than it's ever been. You, the consumer, are basically winning no matter what.
You're getting incredible value across all budgets.
Whether you're leveraging an older flagship for a great price, demanding the absolute latest tech in a Pro Max, or grabbing those cutting-edge AI features on a mid-range Samsung.
Exactly. We've seen Apple's strategic inventory management on one side and Samsung's feature democratization on the other.
A truly comprehensive look at Q3 2025. But before we wrap this deep dive up, we always like to leave you, our listener, with one last provocative thought to chew on.
Right. And given all the evidence in this report, the fact that flagship features like 48MP sensors and critical AI functions are migrating so rapidly into the mid-range, the real question is this. How much longer can companies really justify that huge price difference just for the Pro moniker? If the mid-range experience is already this good, what new value should you prioritize next?
What's the next premium feature once cameras and AI are basically table stakes for everyone? That is something to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.
We'll catch you on the next one.